The massive alien ship Darkwind moved through space like a metal mountain. Its dark hull stretched for miles, covered in weapon ports and sensor arrays that glowed with strange alien light. Admiral Vexthara stood on the command bridge, his tall, reptilian body casting a long shadow across the control stations. His yellow eyes watched the main screen that showed hundreds of ships spread across space like deadly stars. "Report," Vexthara said in his deep voice. His words came out as a low growl that made the smaller aliens around him step back. "All fleets ready, Admiral," replied Commander Vexiran, a creature with 4 arms and blue skin. 12 species. 800 ships total. The human colony world will fall in 3 days. Vexthara nodded slowly. He had spent months planning this attack on New Haven, the human world on the edge of known space. The humans were new to space travel, barely. 200 years since they left their home planet. Their technology was simple, their ships small. This would be an easy victory. At a sensor station, Clixmore worked with 6 hands moving across different controls. He was from the spider-like arachnid race, good with computers and sensors. His multiple eyes suddenly focused on one screen. "Admiral," Clixmore called out, his voice high and nervous. "I detect something strange. What is it?" Vexthara walked over to the sensor station. The other aliens on the bridge stopped their work to listen. "A ship just appeared at the edge of our sensor range, 3 light minutes away. It came out of hyperspace very quietly." Vexthara looked at the screen. A small dot appeared at the edge of the display. "Human?" "Yes, Admiral, but ... Clixmore paused, checking his readings again. "The energy signature is different. Not like the human ships in our database." Far away from the alien fleet, the USS Defiant hung in empty space. The ship was much smaller than the alien vessels, only 300 meters long. Its hull was dark, gray, covered in smooth armor plates that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Commander Jake Morrison sat in the captain's chair, watching the main screen show the massive alien fleet ahead. He was a tall man with short brown hair and serious eyes. At 35, he was young for a ship commander, but he had trained for this moment his entire career. "Lisa, what do our sensors show?" Morrison asked. Chief Engineer Lisa Park turned from her station. She was a small woman with black hair tied back in a tight ponytail. Her hands moved quickly over her controls as she read the data. 800. Ships, sir, maybe more. They have 12 different energy signatures, so 12 different alien races working together. Lisa's voice was calm, but Morrison could hear the concern underneath at the weapons station. Dan Cole whistled low. He was a big man with red hair and strong arms from years of military service. "That's a lot of firepower pointed at New Haven." Morrison nodded. The human colony had 50,000 people living on farms and in small cities. They had no weapons, no shields, no way to fight back against this massive fleet. "Amy, any communications from the fleet?" Morrison asked. Communications specialist. Amy Ross was the youngest member of the crew at 28. She had short blonde hair and quick fingers that danced across her equipment. "Nothing directed at us, sir. But I'm picking up their internal chatter. They're planning to attack New Haven in 3 days." Morrison stood up and walked to the main screen. The alien fleet looked like a cloud of angry insects ready to swarm. His ship was alone, 1 vessel against 800. According to every military handbook ever written, he should run back to Earth and report what he found. But 50,000 people would die if he ran. "Sir," Lisa said quietly, "our orders were to observe and report. We're not supposed to engage." Morrison turned to look at his crew. These 4 people had trained with him for 2 years on the Defiant. They knew the ship better than anyone else in the human fleet. They also knew what the ship could do. The Defiant was not like other human ships. It was built using new technology that most people did not know existed. Its engines were more powerful, its weapons more deadly, and its armor stronger than anything humans had made before. It was designed to fight aliens, though no one expected to need it so soon. "Lisa, what's our power status?" Morrison asked. "Fusion reactors at 60%. I can push them to full power in 10 minutes. Dan, weapons?" "Rail cannons loaded and ready. Fusion torpedoes armed. Point defense systems online. Amy, can you break their communications?" "Already working on it, sir." "Their encryption is good, but not impossible." Morrison made his decision. Battle stations. "We're going to send a message to that fleet." The crew began working faster. Lights dimmed as power flowed to weapons and shields. The Defiant slowly turned toward the alien fleet, its dark hull almost invisible against the black of space, dot back on the Darkwind. Clicksmore watched his sensors with growing worry. "Admiral, the human ship is moving toward us." "One ship?" Vexthara laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. "Are humans really that stupid?" "Sir, the energy readings are getting stronger. Much stronger than our database says human ships." "Should have." Tactical analyst Quindle, a thin creature with gray skin and large black eyes, looked up from his station. "Admiral, I recommend caution. These readings suggest weapon systems far beyond what we expected from humans." Vexthara's yellow eyes narrowed. He had conquered 17 worlds and destroyed dozens of enemy fleets. One small human ship would not scare him. "Send Squadron 7 to destroy that ship," he ordered. 6 heavy cruisers should be enough to handle one human vessel. "Yes, Admiral," Vexieron replied, but his voice sounded uncertain. On the Defiant, Morrison watched 6 large alien ships separate from the main fleet and move toward him. Each ship was 3 times the size of his vessel, armed with plasma cannons and missile launchers. 6 ships incoming, Dan reported. Heavy cruisers by the look of them. "Amy, open a channel to the fleet. All frequencies." "Channel open, sir." Morrison stood straight and spoke clearly. "Alien Fleet, this is Commander Jake Morrison of the United. Earth Navy. You are approaching human space with hostile intent. Turn back now or face the consequences." On the alien command ship, laughter filled the bridge. Vexthara grinned, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Did that human just threaten us?" he asked. "It appears so, Admiral," Quindle replied, but he was studying his sensors with a worried expression. "Squadron 7, destroy that ship immediately," Vexthara ordered. The 6 alien cruisers opened fire together. Hundreds of plasma bolts and missiles streaked through space toward the small human ship. But the Defiant was already moving, sliding sideways with impossible grace for such a large vessel. Morrison gripped his chair as the ship dodged the alien weapons. "Dan, return fire. Show them what humans can do." The Defiant's rail cannons spoke, with thunder that could be felt through the ship's hull. Solid metal slugs, accelerated to incredible speed, shot across space faster than the aliens could track. The first slug hit the lead alien cruiser's shields. The energy barrier flashed bright blue and disappeared. The second slug punched through, the ship's armor like it was made of paper. The third slug hit the reactor. The alien cruiser exploded in a ball of white fire that lit up space for thousands of miles. On the Darkwind, every alien on the bridge stood in shocked silence. "Impossible," Vexthara whispered. The explosion of the alien cruiser lit up space like a new star. Pieces of burning metal flew in all directions, and the shock wave made nearby ships shake. On the command bridge of the Darkwind, Admiral Vexthara stared at the main screen with his mouth open. "How?" he whispered. His yellow eyes could not believe what they had seen. One shot from the human ship had destroyed a cruiser that should have been able to fight off 10 enemy vessels. Squadron 7, continue attack? Vexthara roared, his voice echoing through the bridge. The remaining 5 alien cruisers spread out and fired again. This time they used different weapons, hoping to confuse the human ship. Energy beams, plasma cannons, and guided missiles all flew toward the Defiant. At once Commander Morrison watched the incoming fire on his screen. "Lisa, give me everything the engines have." "Fusion reactors at 100%, Lisa Park replied, her hands flying over her controls. "Warning lights are coming on, but we can hold this power level." The Defiant moved like a dancer in space. It rolled left to avoid the energy beams, then dove down to escape the plasma fire. The guided missiles tried to follow, but Amy Ross was ready for them. "Point defense active," Amy announced. Small guns all over the ship's hull fired rapid bursts. The alien missiles exploded one by one, creating a wall of fire behind the human ship. "Dan, pick your targets," Morrison ordered. Weapons Officer Dan Cole studied his targeting computer. The alien ships were trying to surround the Defiant, but they were moving in patterns that human computers could predict. "Target locked on cruiser." "2," Dan said. "Rail cannons ready. Fire." The Defiant's main guns fired again. 3 metal slugs shot across space at incredible speed. The second alien cruiser tried to turn away, but it was too slow. The first slug hit its engine section, the second punched through its middle, and the third hit near the bridge. The cruiser broke apart like a toy, splitting into 3 pieces that tumbled through space. On the alien command ship, panic began to spread. Officers shouted reports in different alien languages. Some species had never seen their ships destroyed so easily. "Admiral," Clicksmore called out, his 6 hands shaking as he worked his controls. "The human ship is using kinetic weapons. Solid projectiles moving at 20% of light speed." "That's impossible," Commander Vexiron said, his forearms waving nervously. "No ship that small can generate that much energy." But the tactical displays did not lie. The human ship was moving faster than any vessel. Its size should be able to move, and its weapons were more powerful than anything in the alien database. Squadron Leader Cordex commanded the remaining 4 alien cruisers. He was from the warrior race called the Battalions, creatures born to fight and conquer. But watching 2 of his ships die in seconds made him feel something he had never felt before: fear. "All ships, attack pattern 7, Cordex ordered. Spread wide and hit them from all sides." The 4 cruisers moved to form a box around the human ship. Their plan was simple: fire from 4 directions at once, so the Defiant could not dodge all the shots. Morrison saw what they were doing. "They're trying to box us in. Lisa, can you give me more speed?" "I can reroute power from life support for 30 seconds, Lisa replied. "That should give you enough speed to break their formation." "Do it." The Defiant suddenly shot forward like a bullet. It flew straight at one of the alien cruisers, and the alien captain panicked. He fired all his weapons at once, but the human ship was moving too fast. The shots passed behind the Defiant as it rocketed past the cruiser. "Now," Morrison shouted. Dan. Cole fired the fusion torpedoes. These were different from the railgun slugs. They were small bombs that created tiny stars when they exploded. 2 torpedoes hit the alien cruiser from behind, right in its engine section. The fusion explosions tore the ship apart from the inside. Nuclear fire consumed the alien vessel, and nothing was left but glowing gas and twisted metal. 3 down. 3 to go, Dan said with grim satisfaction. The remaining alien cruisers were now afraid to get close to the human ship. They spread out and tried to hit the Defiant with long-range fire. But their plasma weapons lost power over distance, and their missiles were too slow to catch the fast-moving human vessel. Morrison realized his advantage. Amy, scan their communications. I want to know what they're saying to each other. Amy Ross worked her equipment with expert skill. Got it, sir. They're reporting to their fleet. They say our weapons are impossible, and our ship is cursed by the war gods. Good. Fear is a weapon too. Dan, let's give them something else to be afraid of. The Defiant turned toward the fourth alien cruiser. This time, Dan used the ship's secondary weapons, smaller railguns that could fire many times per minute. A stream of metal slugs flew across space, each one hitting the alien ship's hull with tremendous force. The alien cruiser's shields failed after the first few hits. Then the armor began to crack and break apart. The ship tried to turn away, but more slugs kept hitting it. Finally, one shot hit the bridge, and the cruiser stopped moving, dead in space. 4 down, Morrison said quietly. The last 2 alien cruisers decided to run. They turned away from the human ship and flew back toward the main fleet as fast as they could go. But Commander Morrison was not done with them yet. Chase them down, he ordered. The Defiant followed the fleeing cruisers like a hunting wolf. Its engines were more powerful than the alien ships, so it caught up quickly. The first cruiser tried to fire over its shoulder, but the shots went wide. Dan Cole aimed carefully and fired once. The railgun slug hit the cruiser's main engine, and the ship began to spin out of control. It was damaged, but not destroyed. A survivor to tell the story. The last cruiser made it back to the edge of the alien fleet before the Defiant caught it. Morrison could have destroyed this ship too, but he had a better idea. Amy, send a message. To that ship, tell them to report to their admiral exactly what they saw here today. Message sent, sir. The damaged alien cruiser limped back to the main fleet, carrying news that would shake every species in the Armada. In less than 10 minutes, one human ship had destroyed 4 heavy cruisers and disabled a 5th. It had done this while outnumbered, 6-1, and it had made the attack look easy. On the Darkwind, Admiral Vexthara listened to the surviving captain's report with growing horror. The human ship was not just advanced, it was beyond anything the aliens had ever seen. Impossible. Weapons, the captain said, his voice shaking. They fire solid metal faster than our sensors can track. Their ship moves like it has no mass. And their captain. The captain paused. Their captain spoke to us like we were children playing with toys. Vexthara's claws scraped against his chair. He had lost 5 ships to 1 human vessel. If there were more ships like this one, his entire fleet was in danger. Sir, Tactical Analyst Quindle spoke carefully. I recommend we reconsider our attack on the human colony. Never, Vexthara roared. We have 800 ships. 1 human vessel cannot stop us all. But even as he said the words, Vexthara felt doubt creeping into his mind. If humans could build 1 ship like this, what other surprises were they? Hiding? On the Defiant, Morrison studied the sensor readings of the alien fleet. The ships were moving differently now, staying closer together like scared animals. Some were even turning away from New Haven. Sir, Lisa said quietly, our reactors are running hot. We need to cool down soon, or we'll have problems. Morrison nodded. The Defiant had shown its power, but it was still just 1 ship against hundreds. The real battle was just beginning. Set course for the edge of the system, he ordered. We'll shadow their fleet and wait for reinforcements. Sir, Amy said, looking up from her station with a smile, I'm picking up hyperspace signatures. Multiple ships incoming. They're using Earth Navy identification codes. Morrison felt relief flood through him. The cavalry was coming. But first, he had sent a message that would echo through alien space for generations. Humans were no longer the weak newcomers that could be pushed around. They were a force to be feared and respected. The age of human power in space had just begun. News of the battle spread through the alien fleet like fire through dry grass. On every ship, crews gathered around communication stations to hear the reports. The story was always the same. One human ship had destroyed 4 heavy cruisers and made it look easy. Captain Zilthara commanded a reptilian destroyer near the edge of the fleet. She was known for her calm mind and steady nerves, but the reports she was hearing made her scales crawl with fear. "Captain," her communications officer said, "Command is ordering all ships to maintain formation. They say the human vessel was just lucky." Zilthara looked at her tactical display. The human ship was still out there, moving like a ghost at the edge of sensor range. Sometimes it appeared on their screens, sometimes it vanished completely. But it was always watching. "Lucky?" she said quietly. "You don't destroy 5 ships with luck." On the insectoid hive ship Queen's Wrath, thousands of drone workers buzzed with nervous energy. The Hive Queen herself, a massive creature with 6 legs and diamond-hard claws, studied the tactical reports with compound eyes that saw everything. "Worker Captain Hixalon," the Queen's mental voice spoke to all her drones at once. "Send a message to the home hive. Tell them humans are more dangerous than we thought." "Yes, my Queen," the drone replied. "Should we continue with the attack?" The Hive Queen was quiet for a long moment. Her species had conquered 40 worlds through superior numbers and fearless attacks. But the human ship made her feel something new, doubt. "For now, we follow Admiral Vexthara's orders. But prepare escape pods. We may need to leave quickly." Fear was spreading to other species too. The crystalline beings, who thought with pure logic, calculated that their fleet might lose 20% of its ships before reaching the human colony. The energy dancers, who lived for battle and glory, found themselves checking their weapons twice and looking over their shoulders. "Commander." Morrison watched all of this through the Defiant's advanced sensors. Amy Ross had broken the alien communication. Codes hours ago, and now they could listen to everything the enemy was saying. "Sir," Amy reported, "I'm hearing arguments between different species commanders. Some want to retreat. Others want to attack us immediately before we can call for help." Morrison nodded. This was exactly what he had hoped for. "What about their main commander?" "Admiral Vexthara is ordering all ships to stay in formation and continue toward New Haven, but his own officers are questioning the orders." Dr. Kevin Hayes looked up from his science station. He was a thin man with gray hair and quick eyes that missed nothing. As the ship's science officer, he studied alien behavior and psychology. "Commander," Dr. Hayes said, "I've been analyzing their communication patterns. This fleet is made up of 12 different species that don't normally work together. They're only united because they all want to conquer human space. What does that mean for us?" Morrison asked. "It means they have old grudges against each other. Some of these species have fought wars in the past. If we can make them afraid enough, those old hatreds might surface." Morrison smiled. "What do you suggest?" Dr. Hayes pulled up a star chart on his screen. "We make them more afraid. Hit-and-run attacks on the edge of their formation. Never stay long enough to get trapped, but always visible enough to remind them we're here. Lisa, how are our engines?" "Chief." Engineer Park checked her displays. "Reactors are cool now. We can run at full power for another 6 hours if needed." "Good. Then, prepare for surgical strikes. Target their communication ships and supply vessels. Make them feel helpless." The Defiant moved like a shadow through space. It approached the alien fleet from below, where their sensors had blind spots. Morrison picked his target, a large communication ship that was relaying orders between different species. "Target locked," Dan Cole reported. "Fire 1 torpedo. Make it count." The fusion torpedo flew across space and hit the alien communication ship square in its main antenna array. The explosion was small, but precise, destroying the ship's ability to send or receive messages without killing the crew. Immediately, chaos broke out in that section of the fleet. Ships began flying in different directions because they could not hear new orders. Some species commanders tried to take charge, but others refused to listen. "Next target," Morrison ordered. The Defiant struck again, this time hitting a supply ship carrying food and fuel for the insectoid vessels. The explosion was bigger this time, and burning supplies drifted through space like deadly snow. The Hive Queen felt the death of her workers through their mental link. Rage filled her mind, but it was mixed with fear. How could one enemy ship strike exactly where it would hurt most? All ships, attack the human vessel. She broadcast to her drones. But Admiral Vexthara had different orders. Maintain formation. Do not break ranks. For the first time in the Alliance, two species commanders were giving opposite orders. The insectoid ships hesitated, not knowing which leader to follow. Some moved toward where they thought the human ship was hiding. Others stayed in formation. Dr. Hayes watched the confusion with satisfaction. "It's working, Commander. Look at their formation." The alien fleet, which had been a tight, organized group, was starting to spread apart. Ships were moving at different speeds and in different directions. The careful battle plan that had taken months to develop was falling apart. Morrison struck. Again, this time he targeted a crystalline logistics vessel that was calculating fuel consumption for the entire fleet. Without this ship's data, the fleet commanders would not know how long they could stay in human space before running out of supplies. "Sir," Amy reported, "I'm hearing angry communications between species commanders. The reptilians are blaming the insectoids for breaking formation. The energy dancers are calling everyone cowards." Any response from their main commander? "Admiral Vexthara is trying to restore order, but his officers are arguing with him. One of them just suggested they retreat and attack a weaker target." Morrison felt a moment of hope. If the alien fleet turned away from New Haven, the 50,000 colonists would be safe. But he knew it would not be that easy. "Sir," Lisa called out, "long-range sensors are detecting hyperspace signatures. Multiple contacts coming in fast." Morrison turned to the main screen. "How many?" "I count 15 ships. No, 20. 30. Ships total. They're using Earth Navy identification codes." Relief flooded through Morrison's chest. The human reinforcements had arrived, just as Command had promised. But would 30 ships be enough against 800 alien vessels? "Amy, open a channel to the lead ship." "Channel open, sir." "Earth Navy vessel. This is Commander Morrison aboard the USS Defiant. Request immediate tactical coordination." The response came quickly in a strong female voice. "Commander Morrison, this is Admiral Susan Clark aboard the USS Thunderstrike. We've been monitoring your actions for the past hour. Impressive work." Morrison had heard of Admiral Clark. She was one of Earth's best fleet commanders, with 20 years of experience in space combat. If anyone could turn 30 ships into a fighting force that could face 800, it was her. "Admiral, the alien fleet is showing signs of internal discord. Recommend we exploit this weakness before they can reorganize." "Agreed, Commander. Upload all your tactical data to my ship. We'll coordinate our attacks to maximize confusion among enemy forces." As the human reinforcements took position around the Defiant, Morrison felt the balance of power shift. The aliens still outnumbered them 25-1, but numbers meant nothing if the enemy could not work together. On the alien command ship, Admiral Vexthara watched his sensors as more human vessels appeared. Each new ship signature was like a knife in his heart. These humans were not the weak creatures his intelligence reports had described. "Admiral," Quindle said carefully, "our fleet is starting to break apart. Some commanders are requesting permission to withdraw. Vextara's claws dug into his command chair. Everything was going wrong. His perfect plan was falling apart. His fleet was scared, and now more human ships were arriving. "Send a message to all ships," he ordered. "Any commander who retreats without orders will be executed for cowardice." But even as he spoke the words, Vextara knew that fear was stronger than discipline. The humans had done something impossible. They had made his mighty fleet afraid of shadows. The real battle was about to begin, and for the first time in his long career, Admiral Vextara was not sure his side would win. The human fleet spread out through space like a pack of hunting wolves. Admiral Susan Clark sat in the command chair of the USS Thunderstrike, studying the tactical display that showed 800 alien ships ahead of her 30 vessels. Odds were terrible, but she had faced worse situations before. "Captain Bell, take your heavy cruiser and the destroyer squadron around to their left flank," Admiral Clark ordered into her communicator. "Captain Fox, your carrier group will provide fighter support from above." Captain Roy Bell commanded the USS Vanguard, a massive ship bristling with rail cannons and fusion torpedo tubes. "Understood, Admiral. My guns are ready to dance." "Captain." Nenia Fox controlled the carrier USS Stronghold, which carried 60 fighter craft inside its hull. "Fighters launching now, Admiral. They'll be in position in 10 minutes. Commander Steve Price led 6 destroyers that moved like quick sharks through the void. "Destroyer squadron ready for hit-and-run attacks, Admiral." Admiral Clark had spent years studying alien tactics and psychology. She knew that the enemy fleet was made up of 12 different species that did not trust each other completely. The fear that Commander Morrison had created was already making them nervous. Now she planned to turn that fear into panic. "All ships." "This is Admiral Clark," she announced to her fleet. "Our goal is not to destroy every enemy ship. That's impossible. Our goal is to break their will to fight and send them running home with stories that will keep other aliens away from human space." On the Defiant, Commander Morrison felt proud to be working with such experienced officers. His ship had started this fight alone, but now he was part of a real fleet. "Commander Morrison," Admiral Clark's voice came through his speakers, "your ship has proven itself today. I want you to continue your ghost attacks. Keep hitting their supply lines and communication ships. Make them afraid to spread out." "Understood, Admiral. My crew knows how to hurt them where it counts." Dr. Kevin Hayes had been busy studying the alien fleet's behavior. He looked up from his science station with an excited expression. "Commander, I've identified which species are most likely to break ranks first. The crystalline beings make all decisions based on logic and probability. Right now, their computers are telling them this battle cannot be won. What about the others? The energy dancers live for glory in battle, but they're starting to realize there's no glory in being destroyed by superior technology. The Hive Queen is getting reports of dead workers, and that's making her protective instincts kick in." Morrison smiled. "So we keep picking at them until they crack." The human fleet moved into attack position like pieces on a chessboard. Each ship knew its role and played it perfectly. The aliens had more ships, but the humans fought as one mind with one purpose. Captain Bell's heavy cruiser USS Vanguard opened fire first. Its massive rail cannons sent metal slugs flying across space at incredible speed. The slugs hit an alien battleship's shields and punched right through them like they were made of glass. "Direct hit on enemy battleship," Captain Bell reported with satisfaction. "Their shields are down and they're leaking atmosphere." The alien ship tried to turn away, but Commander Price's destroyers were waiting. 6 ships fired together, their smaller railguns creating a storm of metal that tore the wounded battleship apart. Captain Fox's fighters swarmed around the alien fleet like angry bees. The small craft were too fast for the big alien guns to hit, but their missiles could punch holes in alien armor. They focused on the engine sections of enemy ships, leaving them dead in space. Admiral Vexthara watched his fleet being torn apart piece by piece. The humans were not fighting like any enemy he had faced before. They did not charge straight at his ships like warriors seeking glory. Instead, they hit weak points with surgical precision. "Admiral," Commander Vexiron called out, his arms shaking with fear. "The Crystalline Collective is requesting permission to withdraw. They say their computers show a 90% chance of fleet destruction if we continue." "Denied," Vexthara roared. "We outnumber them 25-1. But tactical analyst Quindle was studying his screens with growing horror. "Sir, numbers mean nothing if we cannot hit our targets. These human ships move faster than anything we've seen. Their weapons punch through our strongest shields, and they fight like they can read our minds." On the human flagship, Admiral Clark was coordinating the battle like a master conductor leading an orchestra. Every ship knew when to attack and when to pull back. Every shot was aimed at maximum effect. "Commander Morrison, hit their command ship's communication array," she ordered. "Captain Bell, focus fire on that carrier group. Captain Fox, send your fighters after their supply convoy." The USS Defiant slipped through space like a shadow and fired a single fusion torpedo at the alien flagship. The torpedo hit the Darkwind's main communication tower and destroyed it in a ball of nuclear fire. Suddenly, Admiral Vexthara could not talk to half his fleet. Ships began acting on their own, some attacking, some retreating, some just sitting still because they did not know what to do. Captain Bell's rail cannons destroyed 3 alien carriers in quick succession. Each explosion lit up space and sent shockwaves through nearby ships. The aliens had never seen their powerful vessels die so easily. Captain Fox's fighters attacked the alien supply convoy with deadly efficiency. Food ships, fuel tankers, and ammunition carriers exploded one after another. Soon the alien fleet would have no way to stay in human space, even if they won the battle. The breaking point came when the Crystalline Collective's flagship suddenly turned away from the battle. The logical beings had calculated that continuing to fight was suicide, and they valued survival over honor. "The crystal ships are running," Amy Ross reported from her station on the Defiant. "Sir," Dr. Hayes added, "this is creating chaos among the other species. Some are following the Crystallines. Others are calling them cowards." Admiral Vexthara felt his carefully planned alliance falling apart. Without the crystalline ships, he lost 200 vessels and their advanced technology. The remaining aliens were arguing among themselves instead of fighting the humans. "All ships maintain formation," he ordered, but only half his fleet could hear him because his communication array was destroyed. The Hive Queen decided she had lost enough workers. "All Hive ships, retreat to safe distance," she broadcast to her drones. "Preserve the swarm for another day." The insectoid vessels began turning away from the battle, taking another 150 ships out of the fight. Now Admiral Vexthara was down to less than 400 ships, and many of those belonged to species that were already looking for the exit. "Admiral," Clark saw the alien fleet starting to collapse. "All ships, press the attack. Don't let them regroup." The human fleet struck like lightning. Captain Bell's heavy cruiser destroyed 2 alien battleships with a single salvo. Commander Price's destroyers hit 3 enemy vessels before they could return fire. Captain Fox's fighters swarmed over a group of alien cruisers and left them burning wrecks. But Admiral Clark was not done yet. She had one more surprise for the aliens. "Commander Morrison, are you ready for the final phase?" Morrison checked his ship's status. The Defiant had taken some damage, but all systems were working. "Ready, Admiral? Then let's show them what happens when humans get angry." Every human ship in the fleet fired at once. Rail cannons, fusion torpedoes, missiles, and fighter attacks all hit the alien fleet at the same moment. The coordinated strike was so devastating that it looked like a new sun had been born in space. When the explosions faded, 50 alien ships were gone. Just gone, turned into glowing gas and twisted metal. The survivors sat in shocked silence, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. On the alien flagship, Admiral Vexthara stared at his tactical display in horror. In 30 minutes, his mighty fleet of 800 ships had been reduced to less than 300, and the human fleet was still intact, still fighting, still winning. "Admiral," Quindle said quietly, "we must retreat. If we stay, they will destroy us all." For the first time in his long career, Admiral Vexthara felt the taste of defeat. The humans had not just beaten his fleet, they had humiliated it. Stories of this battle would spread through alien space for generations. "Signal general retreat," he said, the words feeling like poison in his mouth. But as the alien ships began to turn away, Admiral Clark was already planning her next move. The battle was won, but the war for human space was just beginning. And the aliens were about to learn that humans never forgot their enemies. The alien fleet tried to run, but Admiral Susan Clark was not finished with them yet. She watched the enemy ships turn away from battle with cold satisfaction. Running would not save them from the lesson she planned to teach. "All ships pursue the enemy fleet," Admiral Clark ordered. "But do not destroy them all. We want survivors to carry our message back to their home worlds." Captain Roy Bell's voice came through the communicator with obvious pleasure. "Admiral, my rail cannons are locked on their flagship. One shot will finish Admiral Vexthara." "Negative, Captain. Wound the ship, don't kill it. A dead admiral cannot spread fear. A defeated one can." Commander Morrison understood Admiral Clark's strategy perfectly. The Defiant moved like a hunting shark toward the fleeing alien flagship. The Darkwind was trying to escape, but its engines were damaged from the battle. "Dang, target their engine." "Section," Morrison ordered. "Disable them. Don't destroy them." Weapons Officer Dan Cole aimed carefully and fired one rail cannon slug. The metal projectile hit the alien flagship's main engine and tore a hole through the drive system. The Darkwind began to drift, unable to control its movement. On the bridge of the alien flagship, Admiral Vexthara felt his ship shudder as human weapons found their target. His yellow eyes burned with rage and shame as he realized his mighty. "Vessel is now helpless. Damage report," he demanded. "Main engines offline," reported a frightened technician. "Secondary power failing. We are dead in space." Vexthara looked at his tactical display and saw human ships surrounding his fleet like predators circling wounded prey. In 30 years of conquest, he had never been in this position. "Admiral," Quindle said quietly, "the humans are sending a message." Admiral Clark's voice filled the alien bridge, speaking in perfect galactic standard. "Admiral Vexthara, this is Admiral Susan Clark of the United Earth Navy. Your invasion force is defeated. Surrender now, and your surviving crews will be allowed to return home." Vexthara's claws scraped against his command chair. Surrender? The word was poison to a warrior who had conquered 17 worlds. But as he looked around his bridge, he saw fear in the eyes of his officers. They had lost the will to fight. "What are your terms?" Vexthara asked, the words coming out like a growl of pain. "Simple," Admiral Clark replied. "You will return to your home worlds and tell your leaders exactly what happened here today. You will explain that human space is protected by weapons beyond your understanding. And you will make it clear that any future attacks on human colonies will result in the complete destruction of your fleets." The alien admiral closed his eyes. He was being forced to become a messenger of his own defeat. But the alternative was watching his remaining ships die one by one. "I accept your terms," Vexthara said, each word cutting his pride like a knife. Around the battlefield, other alien commanders were making the same choice. The crystalline collective had already calculated that surrender was the logical option. The Hive Queen was more concerned with saving her workers than maintaining her honor. Even the proud energy dancers realized that there was no glory in pointless. Death. Commander Morrison watched from the Defiant as alien ships began shutting down their weapons and lowering their shields. The sight filled him with quiet satisfaction. 50,000 human colonists on New Haven would live because 30 human ships had stood against 800 alien vessels and won. "Sir," Amy Ross said with wonder in her voice, "I'm receiving surrender signals from the entire alien fleet. All species are laying down their arms." Dr. Kevin Hayes looked up from his science station with a thoughtful expression. "Commander, this victory will change everything. When word spreads through alien space, every species will know that humans are not to be underestimated." Morrison nodded. The battle had been won with superior technology and tactics, but the real victory was psychological. Fear of human capabilities would protect human space better than any weapon. Admiral Clark's fleet began the process of cataloging the defeated alien vessels. Each ship was scanned and documented. The humans wanted detailed records of alien technology and capabilities for future reference. "Commander Morrison," Admiral Clark's voice came through his communicator, "bring your ship alongside the alien flagship. I want you to personally deliver our message to Admiral Vexthara." Morrison felt honored. To complete this mission, the Defiant moved slowly toward the disabled Darkwind, its weapons trained on the larger ship, but not firing. On the alien bridge, Vexthara watched the small human ship approach. This was the vessel that had started his downfall, the single ship that had destroyed 5 of his cruisers and made his fleet afraid. Now it looked so small and harmless, but he knew the terrible power it contained. "Admiral Vexthara," Morrison's voice filled the alien bridge. "I am Commander Jake Morrison of the USS Defiant. You are defeated, but you are not destroyed. Take this gift of life and use it wisely. What message would you have me carry?" Vexthara asked, his voice heavy with defeat. "Tell them that humans do not seek war, but we will not avoid it. Tell them that our technology grows stronger every day, and our resolve never weakens. Tell them that human space is protected by ships they cannot imagine and weapons they cannot defeat." Vexthara listened carefully, knowing that these words would shape the future of galactic politics. The humans were not just winning a battle. They were announcing their arrival as a major power in space. "And Admiral," Morrison continued, "tell them that we remember our enemies. Any species that attacks human worlds will face the full might of the Earth Navy. We do not forgive, and we do not forget." The alien admiral felt a chill run through his scales. The humans were not just strong. They were intelligent enough to use fear as a weapon. This defeat would echo through alien space for generations. Over the next several hours, Admiral Clark organized the withdrawal of alien forces. Each species was given a specific route home and warned never to enter human space again. The damaged ships were allowed to repair themselves enough to make the journey, but their weapons remained disabled. The crystalline collective departed first, their logical minds already calculating the implications of human technological superiority. The Hive Queen's ships followed, carrying news that would spread through every hive in their empire. One by one, the defeated alien species limped away from human space. Admiral Vexthara's flagship was the last to leave. The Darkwind had been repaired just enough to reach the nearest alien outpost, but it would take months to fully restore the ship. Every day of those repairs would remind the crew of their defeat. As the alien flagship disappeared into hyperspace, Admiral Clark gathered her fleet around New Haven. The human colony was safe, and the colonists would never know how close they had come to destruction. Admiral, Captain Bell's voice came through the communicator. What do we do now? Admiral Clark looked at her tactical display, which showed clear space in all directions. Now we prepare for what comes next. This victory will bring us new enemies, but it will also bring us new allies. Species that fear alien expansion will want to make friends with humans. Commander Morrison felt the weight of what they had accomplished. The USS Defiant had started this battle as an unknown prototype. Now it was the ship that had announced humanity's arrival as a galactic power. Sir, Lisa Parks said from her engineering station, Earth Command is requesting a full report on our weapons performance. Tell them everything worked perfectly, Morrison replied. But also tell them we'll need bigger ships and better weapons. Word of this battle will spread, and our enemies will come prepared next time. Dr. Hayes was already analyzing the captured alien data. Commander, we've learned more about alien technology in one day than we had in 20 years of peaceful contact. This information will help us stay ahead of potential threats. The human fleet began its journey back to Earth, carrying news of a victory that would change galactic history. But they also carried the knowledge that this was just the beginning. Humanity had announced itself as a force to be respected and feared, but that announcement would bring new challenges. On worlds across the galaxy, alien leaders received reports of the battle with shock and disbelief. The humans, who had seemed so weak and primitive, had revealed technology that surpassed anything in known space. Emergency councils were called. Military strategies were revised. Some species began planning defensive alliances, while others considered whether humans might make useful allies against their own enemies. In the deepest reaches of space, ancient powers that had slept for millennia began to stir. The rise of humanity had upset the old balance of galactic politics, and change was coming to the stars. But for now, human space was safe. The colony worlds could grow and prosper under the protection of ships like the USS Defiant. Children would be born who would never know the fear of alien invasion, and humanity would continue its expansion among the stars. Commander Jake Morrison looked out at the endless night of space and smiled. His ship had fired the first shots in humanity's rise to galactic power. The universe would never be the same, and that was exactly what humanity needed. The age of human dominance in space had begun, and it would last for 1,000 years. Captain Jake Morrison stood in front of the large window on the space station. He looked out at the stars and felt anger growing in his chest. The message on his desk made his hands shake. Resolution 447X was the worst news humans had received. In 200 years, Amy Parker walked into the room. She was Jake's best friend and the chief engineer on the station. She saw his face and knew something was very wrong. What happened? Amy asked. Jake picked up the datapad and read out loud. The Galactic Coalition has passed Resolution 447X. All human colonies must move to designated areas. Human military ships cannot have more than basic weapons. Human trade will be limited to approved routes only. Amy felt her stomach drop. They're treating us like children. Worse than children, Jake said. His voice was cold. They're treating us like pets. For 200 years, humans had tried to be good members of the Galactic Coalition. They had followed every rule. They had helped other species with their problems. They had shared their technology and knowledge. But the alien races still looked down on them. The Seltharian Empire was the worst. These bug-like aliens thought they owned the galaxy. They had ruled for thousands of years before humans even learned to make fire. They never let anyone forget it. Jake remembered his first meeting with a Seltharian officer. The alien had looked at him like he was dirt. Young species, the Seltharian had said with a clicking sound. You must learn your place. That was 20 years ago. Nothing had changed. On Earth, Admiral Lisa Davis got the same message. She sat in her office deep, underground in Colorado. The room was full of other military leaders. They all looked angry. General Chris Walker slammed his fist on the table. 200 years of this garbage. When does it end? Admiral Tony Rodriguez shook his head. It doesn't end. Not unless we make it end. Colonel Susan Hayes was the youngest person in the room. She had grown up hearing stories about the old days when humans fought their own wars. My grandfather told me stories about World War II. He said Americans didn't back down from bullies. This is different, Admiral Davis said. We're dealing with aliens who have technology we can barely understand. Do they? Colonel Hayes asked. Or do they just want us to think that? The room went quiet. Everyone knew what she meant. Humans had been building in secret for decades. They had learned from every alien technology they could find. They had improved on it, made it better, made it deadlier. Admiral Davis looked around the room. These were good people, smart people, people who had spent their lives serving humanity. They deserved better than being treated like second-class citizens. Project Fukov, she said quietly. Everyone in the room knew those words. They had been planning for this day for 50 years. Deep in the asteroid belt, human workers had been building something the aliens had never seen. Something that would change everything. General Walker smiled for the first time in months. It's time? It's time, Admiral Davis said. Back on the IC space station, Jake was talking to Amy about the old days. Remember when we joined the coalition? Everyone was so excited. We thought we were joining a family. Some family, Amy said. They treat us like the annoying little brother who won't go away. Jake laughed, but there was no humor in it. Maybe it's time to show them what the little brother can do when he gets mad. The communication system beeped. Jake pressed the button. Admiral Davis appeared on the screen. She looked tired but determined. All Earth Defense Force personnel, she said. This is Admiral Davis. You have all seen Resolution 447X. You know what it means. The aliens think they can push us around because we've been polite for 200 years. They think we're weak. Jake and Amy listened carefully. Other humans on the station gathered around screens throughout the facility. They're about to learn something important about humans. Admiral Davis continued. We're not weak. We're patient. There's a big difference, but our patience has run out. The Admiral's eyes were hard as steel. Project Fukov is now active. All personnel should prepare for Operation Awakening. The galaxy wanted us to know our place. We're going to show them exactly where that place is. The transmission ended. Jake and Amy looked at each other. They both felt something they hadn't felt in years. Hope. How long do you think it will take? Amy asked. Jake thought about the secret shipyards in the asteroid belt. He thought about the weapons humans had been building in hidden facilities across the solar system. He thought about 200 years of being pushed around. Not long, he said. Not long at all. In the distance, the first ships were already moving. Human ships that looked nothing like the pretty, elegant vessels the aliens preferred. These ships looked like what they were built to be. Weapons of war. The galaxy had forgotten something important about humans. They were the species that had fought 2 world wars. They were the species that had conquered their own planet before they ever left it. They were survivors, fighters, and winners. The aliens were about to remember why humans had earned their place in the galaxy through blood and determination. The Terran Fukov Armada was about to teach the galaxy a lesson they would never forget. Jake smiled as he watched the first ships disappear into hyperspace. The real war was just beginning. Commander Rick Thompson stood on the bridge of Ceres Station and watched history being made. For 50 years, This place had looked like a simple mining operation. The aliens thought humans were just digging up rocks and ice. They were wrong. Open. The bay doors, Rick ordered. The asteroid split open like a flower. Hidden inside was the largest shipyard humans had ever built. Massive ships floated in the darkness, waiting for their moment. These weren't the pretty ships the aliens liked to build. These were ugly, brutal, and perfect for war. First wave, prepare for launch, Rick said into his communicator. Captain Helen Brooks sat in the command chair of the TNS Defiance. Around her, dozens of other ships waited for the order. Each ship was packed with weapons that violated every treaty the Coalition had ever written. The humans didn't care about treaties anymore. All ships report ready, came the voice from the communication. System. Helen looked at the tactical display. 200 ships hung in space around Ceres. Each one could destroy an entire alien fleet by itself. Together, they were unstoppable. This is Commander Thompson. Rick's voice filled every ship. For 50 years, we've built in secret. We've prepared for this day. The aliens think they know what human ships can do. They're about to learn they were wrong. On Mars, Colonel Betty Johnson watched workers load the final weapons onto her ships. These weren't normal weapons. They were designed by humans who had studied every alien defense system. They were built to go through alien shields like they weren't even there. Major Dan Foster walked up to Betty. His job was to make sure every weapon worked perfectly. The quantum torpedoes are loaded, he said. The kinetic bombardment systems are online. The particle beams are charged and ready. Betty nodded. Each weapon could destroy a city. Her ships carried hundreds of them. Any word from the Coalition? They're still trying to figure out what we're doing, Dan said. Their spies reported unusual activity in human space. They think we're just upset about the new rules. Betty laughed. Upset doesn't begin to cover it. The Zaltharian spy network had been watching human space for weeks. Hivemind Z-Stalak read the reports with growing confusion. Humans were moving ships and supplies, but it didn't make sense. Their technology was too simple to be a real threat. Probably another one of their emotional outbursts. Z-Stalak told the other Zaltharians. Young species are so unpredictable. They'll calm down in a few cycles. The other alien leaders agreed. Humans were known for getting angry quickly, and then forgetting about it. They had never been a real military threat. Their ships were functional, but not impressive. Their weapons followed Coalition guidelines exactly. What the aliens didn't know was that humans had been following those guidelines for their public ships only. The real weapons had been built in secret, using technology the aliens had never shared. Captain Sam Wright commanded the first ship to leave the hidden fleet. The TNS Retribution was the size of an alien dreadnought, but packed with 3 times the firepower. Sam had been waiting for this moment his entire career. Hyperspace. Jump in 30 seconds, his navigator said. Sam looked at his crew. These people had trained for years for this mission. They knew the risks. They knew the aliens would try to stop them. They didn't care. Remember, Sam said to his crew, we're not conquerors, we're teachers. The galaxy is about to learn what happens when you push humans too far. The ship jumped to hyperspace. Behind it, dozens of other ships followed. The Terran Fukov Armada was on the move. Back on Ceres, Rick watched the tactical display as his ships spread across the galaxy. Each ship had a specific target. Military bases, government centers, and industrial facilities that kept the Coalition running. Sir, his communication officer said, we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Davis. Admiral Davis appeared on the main screen. She looked calm, but Rick could see the fire in her eyes. All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Davis. Operation Awakening is proceeding as planned. Remember, We are not targeting civilians. We are not conquerors. We are humans, and humans fight with honor. But, she continued, honor doesn't mean weakness. The aliens wanted to see what humans are really capable of. Show them. The transmission ended. Rick turned to his crew. You heard the Admiral. Let's show the galaxy what 200 years of human engineering can do. On Earth, the hidden command center was buzzing with activity. Major Sandy Clark coordinated communications between the scattered fleet elements. Colonel Jim Foster managed tactical data from across the galaxy. Everything was working perfectly. Admiral Davis watched the displays showing human ships moving into position. For 50 years, she had planned for this moment. Every detail had been considered. Every possible alien response had been planned for. Admiral, Major Clark said, the Zaltharian home fleet is moving to intercept our ships near Nexus Prime. How? Many ships? Davis asked. 200 of their best warships, Clark replied. Admiral Davis smiled. The aliens still didn't understand. They were sending 200 elegant, ceremonial ships against 200 human war machines. It would be a massacre. Send a message to Captain Brooks, Davis ordered. Tell her to be gentle with them. We want prisoners who can tell the galaxy what they saw. In space near the Zaltharian trade hub, Captain Helen Brooks received her orders. Around her, the alien fleet was taking formation. Their ships were beautiful, with flowing lines and crystal decorations. They looked like works of art. Helen's ships looked like hammers, blunt, brutal, and designed for one purpose. This is Captain Brooks to all ships, she said over the communication system. The aliens are about to attack. Remember, we want survivors. Show them the difference between pretty ships and real warships. The alien commander, Crystal Singer Veltar, broadcast on all frequencies. Human ships, you are in violation of Coalition space. Surrender immediately or face the consequences. Helen responded with a single word. No. The battle was about to begin. The galaxy was about to see what humans had been building, while the aliens thought they were just mining rocks. The Terran Fukov Armada was ready to remind everyone why humans had never lost a war they were determined to win. The Terran Fukov Armada dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. 200 human warships appeared around Nexus Prime like angry ghosts. The alien trade hub was the most important commercial center in Zaltharian space. It was also heavily defended. Captain Helen Brooks stood on the bridge of the TNS Defiance and smiled. The human ships had arranged themselves in a specific pattern. When viewed from the planet below, they spelled out a simple message in human letters. Fukov. Sir, her communication officer said, the planet is requesting our intentions. Tell them to watch and learn, Helen replied. On the planet's surface, millions of aliens looked up at the sky. They had never seen human ships like these. The vessels were dark, angular, and covered in weapons. They looked nothing like the small, peaceful ships humans normally used. Admiral Roy Thompson commanded the fleet from his massive ship, the TNS Sovereign. The dreadnought was twice the size of anything the aliens had ever built. It carried enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. Open a channel to the entire galaxy, Roy ordered. Every communication system in Coalition space received the transmission. Every alien world, every space station, every ship heard Helen Brooks speak for humanity. People of the galaxy, Helen began, her voice calm and clear. For 200 years, humanity has been a loyal member of the Galactic Coalition. We have followed your rules. We have accepted your restrictions. We have endured your condescension. She paused, letting her words sink in across thousands of worlds. Today that ends. We are not requesting equality. We are taking it. On the Zaltharian homeworld, Empress Ziktala watched the transmission with growing alarm. These humans sounded different. They weren't asking for permission anymore. This is impossible, she clicked to her advisors. Human ships are weak. Their weapons are limited by treaty. Her military commander, General Vectar, studied the tactical display. Empress, these ships, they're not following any design we've seen before. Helen continued her broadcast. You have treated us as children who need guidance. You have told us where we can live, what we can build, and how we can defend ourselves. You have forgotten something important about humans. The camera focused on her face. Her eyes were hard as steel. We don't ask for respect. We earn it. Commander Paul Martinez sat in the command chair of the TNS Vengeance. His ship was positioned near a small moon that orbited Nexus Prime. The moon was uninhabited and useless. It was perfect for what he needed to do. Target the moon, Paul ordered. Single kinetic projectile, maximum velocity. His weapons officer looked nervous. Sir, that will completely destroy the moon. That's the point, Paul replied. The TNS Vengeance fired once. A single metal rod, accelerated to nearly the speed of light, struck the moon. The celestial body simply vanished in a flash of light. Where a moon had existed moments before, only expanding debris remained. Across the galaxy, aliens watched in horror. The humans had just erased a moon with one shot. If they could do that to a moon, what could they do to a planet? Helen's voice continued the broadcast. That demonstration used the smallest weapon on our smallest ship. We have bigger ships. We have bigger weapons. We have been very, very patient. The Altarian fleet arrived at Nexus Prime 30 minutes later. Crystal Singer Veltar commanded 50 of their most beautiful warships. Each ship looked like a work of art, with flowing crystal structures that caught and reflected starlight. Human ships, Veltar broadcast, you will withdraw immediately. The Altarian fleet will not allow this aggression. Admiral Thompson responded personally. Crystal Singer Veltar, you have exactly 1 minute to withdraw your ships. After that, we will consider you hostile. Veltar laughed, a sound like wind. Chimes. Hostile? Your primitive weapons cannot penetrate our crystal shields. Our ships have protected this galaxy for 10,000 years. Your ships are about to become scrap metal. Thompson replied calmly. The countdown reached 0. Thompson gave a simple order. Fire. The human ships opened fire simultaneously. The space around Nexus Prime lit up like a star. Particle beams, quantum torpedoes, and kinetic weapons struck the Altarian fleet from every direction. The beautiful crystal ships shattered like glass. Their elegant designs, perfected over millennia, crumpled under the raw power of human engineering. In 4 minutes, 50 alien warships became 50 clouds of sparkling debris. Impossible, Veltar transmitted from his escape pod. Our shields ... our armor ... Your shields were designed to stop alien weapons, Thompson replied. These aren't alien weapons. These are human weapons. On Earth, Admiral Davis watched the battle reports with satisfaction. The demonstration had worked perfectly. Every alien government was getting the same message. Human patience had limits, and those limits had been reached. Admiral, Major Clark reported, we're receiving surrender requests from 17 coalition fleets. Tell them surrender isn't a point, Davis replied. Understanding is the point. The Meridian Republic was the first to break ranks. Ambassador Creolon broadcast from their capital world. The Meridian Republic recognizes the new reality. We call for immediate negotiations with human leadership. Other species began to follow. The pragmatic ones understood that the balance of power had shifted. The stubborn ones would learn the hard way. On Nexus Prime, the orbital defense platforms tried to target the human ships. The platforms were massive structures, built to protect against entire fleets. They had never been defeated. Captain Sam Wright commanded the attack on the platforms. His ship, the TNS Retribution, moved toward the largest platform like a predator stalking prey. "Sir," his tactical officer said, "the platform is charging its main weapon." "It could damage us." Sam smiled. "Could, but it won't get the chance." The TNS Retribution fired a spread of quantum torpedoes. The weapons phased through the platform shields like they weren't there. The massive structure exploded in a chain reaction that lit up half the system. "Platform destroyed," the tactical officer reported unnecessarily. "Move to the next one," Sam ordered. By the end of the day, every defense platform around Nexus Prime was debris. The human fleet hung in space around the planet like avenging angels. They hadn't fired a single shot at the planet itself, but the message was clear. Helen Brooks made one final broadcast. "People of the galaxy, you have 72 hours to revoke Resolution 447X. After that, we stop asking nicely." On the Zeltharian homeworld, Empress Ziktala called an emergency session of the High Council. The old aliens chittered nervously as they watched footage of human ships destroying everything they touched. "How is this possible?" one counselor asked. "Our intelligence said human technology was inferior." "Our intelligence was wrong," the Empress replied. "The question now is, what do we do about it?" Outside the council chambers, Zeltharian citizens looked up at the sky nervously. Human ships had appeared in orbit an hour ago. They weren't doing anything, just hanging there like a promise of what could happen. The galaxy had spent 200 years teaching humans their place. Now the humans were teaching the galaxy a lesson in return. The Terran Fukov Armada had delivered its message with perfect clarity. The 72-hour countdown had begun. 72 hours passed. The Galactic Coalition sent no response. The alien leaders thought they could wait out human anger like they had done before. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Admiral Davis sat in the command center deep beneath Colorado. She looked at the countdown timer as it reached 0. Around her, the best military minds humanity had ever produced waited for her orders. "The deadline has passed," she said quietly. "Begin Operation Fukov." Across the galaxy, human ships that had been waiting in the darkness suddenly came to life. The Terran Fukov Armada split into smaller groups, each heading toward a different target. The aliens were about to see what happened when humans stopped being polite. Captain Kevin Davis led the first strike force toward Warrior's Rest. The planet was home to the most important Zeltharian military academy. For 1,000 years, the bug-like aliens had trained their officers there. That was about to end. "Remember," Kevin told his crew, "we're not targeting civilians. Military installations only. We're teachers, not murderers." The TNS Devastator dropped out of hyperspace above Warrior's Rest. Around it, 20 other human ships took position. Below them, the planet's defense systems came online. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, "they're powering up their planetary shields." Kevin smiled. The Zeltharian shields were strong enough to stop any known weapon. Unfortunately for them, human weapons weren't known weapons. "Fire quantum torpedoes," Kevin ordered. "Full spread." The torpedoes phased through the planetary shields like they were made of air. They struck the military academy with surgical precision. The ancient buildings that had stood for centuries crumbled to dust in seconds. On the planet's surface, Zeltharian, cadets watched in shock as their supposedly impregnable defenses failed completely. The humans hadn't even slowed down. Commander Lara Wilson led her squadron to the Altarian crystal mines on Harmony 7. The mines produced the rare crystals that powered Altarian technology. Without them, the crystal-based aliens would be helpless. "Sir," her navigator said, "the mining platforms are defended by the Altarian Home Guard." Laura looked at the tactical display. 50 Altarian ships surrounded the mining operation. They were beautiful vessels, but she had already seen what happened to beautiful ships when they met human firepower. "Send them a message," Lavra ordered. "Tell them they have 5 minutes to evacuate the platforms." The Altarian commander, Harmony Singer Meldara, responded immediately. "Human ships, you have no authority here. Withdraw or face the consequences." "You've been warned," Lavra replied. She switched to her ship's communication system. "All ships, target the mining platforms. Avoid the ships if they don't interfere." The human squadron opened fire. The crystal mining platforms, each the size of a small city, simply vanished under the bombardment. Centuries of Altarian technology and culture turned to glowing gas in minutes. The Altarian ships tried to fight back. Their crystal weapons were beautiful to watch, creating rainbow patterns as they fired. They bounced harmlessly off human shields. "Impossible," Meldara transmitted. "Our weapons should penetrate any known defense." "Your weapons are designed to fight other crystal ships," Lavra replied. "We're not made of crystal." On Earth, Admiral Davis coordinated the attacks from her command center. Major Sandy Clark managed communications while Colonel Jim Foster tracked tactical data from across the galaxy. Every operation was proceeding perfectly. "Admiral," Sandy reported, "we're receiving panic transmissions from every coalition world. They're demanding to know why their defenses aren't working." "Tell them the truth," Davis replied. "We've been holding back for 200 years. Now they get to see what we can really do." The Meridian Republic tried to negotiate. Ambassador Creolon broadcast on all frequencies. "The Meridian Republic calls for immediate ceasefire. We are prepared to discuss new terms." Davis responded, "Personally, the time for discussion was 72 hours ago. Now you get education." On the Zeltharian homeworld, Empress Zeek-Tala watched reports flood in from across her empire. Military bases were being destroyed with impossible precision. Government buildings were being reduced to rubble. Industrial centers were vanishing under human bombardment. "How many ships do they have?" she demanded. General Vektar looked at the tactical displays with growing horror. "Empress, our estimates were completely wrong. They have thousands of ships. Each one is more powerful than our best dreadnoughts." "This is impossible," the Empress chittered. "Where were they hiding?" "Them? In the asteroid belt?" Vektar replied. "What we thought were mining operations were actually shipyards. They've been building this fleet for decades." The Empress felt something she had never experienced before: fear. For 1,000 years, the Zeltharian Empire had ruled through superior technology and overwhelming force. Now they were facing someone stronger. Captain Jake Morrison watched from his space station as human ships moved through alien space like wolves through sheep. The aliens' beautiful vessels were no match for human engineering designed for one purpose: winning wars. "Amazing," Amy Parker said, standing beside him. "Look how fast they're moving. Alien ships need hours to jump between systems. Ours are doing it in minutes." Jake nodded. "We built our hyperdrives differently. Alien drives are efficient and elegant. Ours are fast and brutal." On the screen, they watched a human destroyer appear next to a Zeltharian battleship. The alien vessel was 3 times larger and had been considered invincible. The human ship fired once. The battleship broke in half. 200 years, Jake said quietly. 200 years of listening to them tell us how primitive we were. The alien response was panicked and uncoordinated. Different species tried different approaches. Some offered tribute. Others threatened retaliation. A few tried to flee to the outer rim of the galaxy. None of it worked. Human ships appeared wherever aliens tried to run. Human weapons destroyed whatever aliens tried to use as leverage. Human technology outperformed anything the Coalition had ever built. The Altarian High Council met in emergency session. Their crystal spires, usually filled with harmonious singing, now echoed with desperate arguments. "We must surrender," Clarity Singer Yoralang argued. "Our shields cannot stop their weapons. Our ships cannot match their speed. Surrender to primitives?" Perfection Singer Nalkith replied, "Impossible. There must be a way to stop them." The argument ended when human ships appeared in orbit above their capital. The massive vessels hung in space like dark angels, their weapons trained on the crystal cities below. Captain Helen Brooks broadcast a simple message. "You have 1 hour to evacuate all military installations. After that, we start shooting." The Altarians evacuated in 57 minutes. By the end of the first week, the galaxy had changed completely. Every major alien military base was either destroyed or abandoned. Government buildings across Coalition space lay in ruins. Industrial centers that had powered alien civilization for millennia were smoking craters. But the humans had kept their promise. Not a single civilian had been harmed. Hospitals, schools, and residential areas remained untouched. The message was clear. Humans were warriors, not monsters. Admiral Davis received a transmission from Admiral Tongson on the TNS Sovereign. His face showed exhaustion, but also satisfaction. "Admiral, all primary objectives have been achieved. The Coalition's military capacity has been reduced by 90%. Their industrial capability is down 80%. Government functionality is at 30%. Davis nodded. "Casualties? Minimal on our side. We've lost 3 ships to accidents, none to enemy action. Alien military casualties are approximately 2 million. Civilian casualties are 0. "Good," Davis replied. "Begin Phase 2. Phase 2 was different. Instead of destroying, human ships began appearing over alien worlds with supplies. Food, medicine, and basic technology flowed from human cargo holds to alien populations. Message was simple. We can destroy you, but we'd rather help you. All you have to do is treat us as equals." The galaxy was learning what humans had always known. Strength without mercy was tyranny. Mercy without strength was useless. But strength with mercy could change the universe. The Terran Fukoth Armada had taught the galaxy to respect humanity. Now it was time to teach them how to live with humans as partners instead of masters. 3 months later, the galaxy was a completely different place. The old Galactic Coalition was gone, replaced by something new. The Terran-led Galactic Federation was born from the ashes of alien arrogance and human patience. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the new command center on Luna. He had been promoted after the successful operation. Around him, representatives from every known species worked alongside human officers. The difference in attitude was remarkable. "Admiral Morrison," said Harmony Singer Veltara, an Altarian who now served as cultural liaison. "The Meridian Republic has requested permission to upgrade their defense systems using human technology." Jake nodded. "Approved. Send them the basic defensive package. Nothing that could threaten our ships, but enough to protect them from pirates." It was a strange new world. The aliens who had once looked down on humans now asked permission for everything. Fear had taught them respect, but humans were working to turn that fear into genuine partnership. Captain Amy Parker commanded the TNS Retribution now. Her ship patrolled the former Zeltharian space, keeping the peace and showing the flag. The ship that had once terrified alien populations now protected them from the chaos that followed the collapse of the old order. "Captain," her communication officer reported, "we're receiving a distress call from the mining colony on Kepler 7. Pirate raiders." Amy smiled. Pirates had appeared when the old coalition fell. They thought the galaxy had become weak. They We're about to learn that human protection came with very sharp teeth. Set course for Kepler 7. Maximum speed. The TNS Retribution jumped to hyperspace. 20 minutes later, it dropped out near the mining colony. 3 pirate ships were attacking. The defenseless miners. They were using old coalition military ships, probably stolen during the chaos. Pirate vessels, Amy broadcast. You have 30 seconds to withdraw or be destroyed. The pirate leader responded with crude insults and threats. Amy sighed. Some people never learned. Fire, she ordered. 3 quantum torpedoes ended the pirate threat in seconds. The miners sent grateful messages to the human ship. Word spread quickly. Attack a Federation world, and humans would appear to make you regret it. On the former Zelfarian homeworld, ex-Empress Zictala worked in her new job as cultural advisor. The proud insectoid who had once ruled an empire now helped her people adapt to life as Federation citizens. The humans want us to attend their cultural exchange program, she told her assistant. Empress, the assistant began. Just Zictala now, she corrected gently. The humans abolished titles of nobility. We're all equal citizens now. It was hard to adjust to, but she had to admit the results were positive. Without the rigid hierarchy of the old empire, younger Zelfarians were showing creativity and innovation. That had been suppressed for centuries. The Altarians had adapted well to the new order. Their crystal cities now hosted human engineers who were learning to combine crystal technology with human manufacturing. The results were impressive. Engineer Tom Baker worked alongside crystal singer Meldana on a new project. They were building power systems that used Altarian crystals with human fusion technology. The hybrid systems were more efficient than anything either species had created alone. Tom, Meldana said in her musical voice, I must admit something. We thought humans were primitive because your technology looked crude. Tom laughed. It is crude. We build things to work, not to look pretty. Function over form. But it works better than our pretty technology, Meldana replied. Perhaps there is wisdom in your crudeness. On Earth, Admiral Davis addressed the new Galactic Federation Council. The meeting was held in Geneva, in a building that had once hosted United Nations sessions. Representatives from 47 different species sat in the same room, discussing the future of the galaxy. Friends, Davis began, 6 months ago, we were second-class citizens in our own galaxy. Today, we stand as equals among the stars. The Meridian representative, now called Ambassador Creolon, stood to speak. Admiral Davis, the Meridian Republic wishes to formally apologize for our treatment of humanity. We let fear and prejudice blind us to your true capabilities. Similar apologies came from other species. The humans accepted them all graciously, but they made one thing clear. The Fukov Armada would remain active as long as necessary. Colonel Susan Hayes, now General. Hayes commanded the Terran Peace Fleet from her flagship, the TNS Sovereign. The massive dreadnought served as a mobile headquarters for peacekeeping operations across the galaxy. General, her intelligence officer reported, the Outer Rim Coalition is asking for Federation membership. Susan nodded. The Outer Rim species had stayed neutral during the war. Now they wanted human protection from the chaos spreading through former Coalition space. Schedule a membership hearing, Susan ordered. Full background checks on their governments. We don't want any more would-be emperors joining the Federation. The peace wasn't perfect. Some alien hardliners refused to accept the new order. The remnants of the Zelfarian military had formed a rebel group called the Pure Empire. They conducted terrorist attacks on human facilities and Federation colonies. Captain Rick Thompson hunted these rebels with systematic precision. His ship, the TNS Vengeance, specialized in counterterrorism operations. The rebels learned that humans were very good at finding people who didn't want to be found. Sir, his tactical officer reported, we've located the rebel base on Sigma 9. Rick studied the intelligence reports. The rebels had taken over an abandoned mining facility and were using it to build bombs for attacks on civilian targets. Launch. Assault shuttles, Rick ordered. Full Marine complement. I want prisoners for interrogation. The attack was swift and precise. Human Marines stormed the facility using equipment that made them nearly invisible to alien sensors. The rebels surrendered when they realized their position was hopeless. Sir, the Marine commander reported, we've captured their leader, General Zekroth of the former Zelfarian military. Rick smiled grimly. Kadroth had been responsible for several terrorist attacks. His capture would send a message to other would-be rebels. On Mars, Colonel Betty Johnson oversaw the production of new ships for the Federation fleet. The yards that had once built weapons of war now built ships of exploration and peacekeeping. Ma'am, her chief engineer reported, the new Explorer ships are ready for launch. Alien crews are reporting for duty. Betty watched as mixed-species crews boarded ships designed for deep space exploration. Humans, Altarians, Meridians, and reformed Zelfarians worked together as they prepared to push into unknown regions of space. It was what the galaxy should have been from the beginning. Different species working together as equals, each contributing their unique strengths to the common good. The transformation wasn't just military or political. It was cultural. Human music was becoming popular on alien worlds. Alien art was inspiring human artists. Children of different species played together in Federation schools. Admiral Davis stood on the observation deck of the Luna Command Center and watched Earth turn slowly below. The blue planet that had given birth to humanity now served as the capital of a galactic civilization. Admiral, her aide reported, the Federation Council has voted. They want to officially rename the Terran Peace Fleet. To what? Davis asked. The Fukov Armada, the aide replied with a straight face. They said the name has historical significance. Davis laughed. It was appropriate. The galaxy had told humans to know their place. The Fukov Armada had shown them that place was at the top of the food chain. But more importantly, it had shown that humans knew the difference between strength and cruelty. The same ships that had devastated alien military forces now protected alien civilians. The same weapons that had destroyed coalition fleets now kept the peace across thousands of worlds. Captain Helen Brooks, now Admiral Brooks, gave the final speech at the dedication ceremony for the new Federation headquarters. Representatives from across the galaxy watched as she spoke about the future. 6 months ago, you saw us as primitives who needed guidance, she said. Today, you know us as protectors who offer partnership. The choice of how you see us tomorrow is yours. She gestured toward the viewport, where human ships patrolled the space around Earth. The Fukov Armada will stand guard as long as necessary. Not as conquerors, but as guardians of the peace we've all worked to build. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humans weren't primitive. They weren't inferior. They were patient, honorable, and absolutely deadly when pushed too far. The Terran Fukov Armada had taught the galaxy to respect humanity. Now humanity was teaching the galaxy how to build a better future together. The age of alien supremacy was over. The age of true galactic civilization had begun. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, human ships continued their eternal patrol, carrying a simple message to anyone who might forget the lessons of the past: treat others as equals, or